Nintendo just revealed FromSoftware's next console exclusive from Hidetaka Miyazaki, and it's basically the Bloodborne successor we've been waiting for, with a big ol' asterisk. This is a player versus environment, or PvPvE multiplayer game, which is similar, but slightly different from Elden Ring Nightrein's squad-based players versus environment setup. So I ask, is the Duskbloods more Nightreign than it is Bloodborne? We're going to deep dive into what we saw from the trailer, why it's not called Bloodborne 2, and of course, and the most important part, the gameplay stuff we gleaned from the trailer.
I give you my life.
FromSoftware's next game was revealed during the Nintendo Switch 2 Direct that featured a city skyline that bears more than a passing resemblance to Yarnham, chock full of sewers, clinics, churches, and we also get mentions of proper nouns about blood, aka the carrier of blood, moonlight, moon tears, and being transported to a dream. Sound familiar, hunters? The trailer opens up on who we assume is the playable character given another chance at life via blood from another character, which is basically the setup of every FromSoft Soulsborne game at this point. That's all supported by the following line from the trailer.
Turn, O wheel, and transport him to a night of moonlight.
Followed by a new symbol on our hand. Is this the new hunter's mark? Perhaps this is a symbol of like some sort of vampiric faction, or maybe this is a symbol of the Duskbloods. We all know every FromSoft game has a proper noun for our playable character. We've got the Chosen Undead, the Curse Bearer, Ashen One, Hunter, and Tarnus. So, are we the Blood Carrier or the Duskblood? My money's on Blood Carrier.
I give you my blood.
Since this is a multiplayer game, I'm going to assume it has a lot of mirrors and echoes of what we've seen in Elden Ring Nightreign, presumably having multiple character classes. Elden Ring Nightreign has 8 playable classes, so we kind of expect roughly around the same number for the Duskbloods. Whether or not these characters that we saw in the trailer are other classes or just very important NPCs or bosses remains to be seen, but regardless, we've got a steampunk rocket man, proud noble with a cane, a stoic monk with a staff, a guy covered in gold with 2 blades and a gun, and a woman sporting a stylish hat. One thing I want to point out is this is a new intellectual property. How do you establish the thing that makes your game so special, aka the lore and the world building, in a game centered around multiplayer? Fortnite has lore, but it's not really the point of the game. The point is the moment-to-moment action, and it's a thing I found myself reconciling while I played Elden Ring Nightreign. You know, I wanted to learn more about this new lands between, but the moment-to-moment of the game didn't really allow you to linger and explore. And since the Duskbloods is a new thing, it doesn't really have the luxury that Nightreign had by building on what came before. So what's it gonna do? One thing that stood out to me about the trailer is a lot of the imagery that I would associate with Bloodborne's Cainhurst Castle. For those not familiar, Cainhurst Castle is a vampiric area with a vampiric faction all centered around drinking blood. And as we saw in the trailer, it seems like drinking blood is kind of important. And presumably, our character is a carrier of blood, so it all kind of goes hand in hand.
Close your eyes and contemplate now the moon.
Bloodborne used moonlight as a sort of portal to the hunter's dream, or the plane of existence where we build out our character a little bit more. Perhaps moonlight in the Duskbloods is a way of transporting us to the dusk of man. And yes, I know I've spent an entire hunter's dream talking about Bloodborne, but this ain't Bloodborne 2. The Duskbloods looks as though I forgot to do my homework, copied Bloodborne's assignment, and then just changed some of the words around. And that's okay. Remember, Bloodborne is a Sony and PlayStation owned IP. So, FromSoft does not have the rights to Bloodborne. But because of how Hidetaka Miyazaki works, that's not really a problem.
Well, you've come to the right place. Yarnham is the home of blood administration.
The beautiful thing about Hidetaka Miyazaki's FromSoft games is its blend of world building while also trusting the player to fill the blank spaces on their own. You see, Hidetaka Miyazaki does not speak English as his native tongue, which is pretty impressive given how he's able to craft such elaborate worlds. As a child, he talked about being able to read a bunch of different books. I believe he talked about Bloodborne, reading H.P. Lovecraft, and only understanding every other word or so and using his imagination to fill out the rest. So he understood how to get from A to C, but he used his imagination to get to B. Let me give you an example. At the end of the Bloodborne Old Hunters DLC, you visit the Fisherman's Hamlet. And the final boss of that DLC is the Orphan of Kos, a orphan who is the progeny of a great one of the big godlike entities in the Bloodborne universe. And the discovery of this Orphan of Kos is kind of what kicks off the events of Bloodborne alongside the discovery of the Old Blood. The game never really explicitly tells you that, but you just kind of intuit and understand through item descriptions and kind of contextual clues that that's maybe what happened, and that maybe is what makes all of FromSoft games so compelling.
This village is the true secret, testament to the old sins.
One thing that we saw established in Bloodborne is the Dickensian old London style look of the city. Where the Duskbloods differs is its sort of next natural evolution of that city. We see it opting into a steampunk future with a steampunk train and of course our Rocket Man. And it wouldn't be a Hidetaka Miyazaki FromSoft game without a nasty little curse boy wandering the sewers for us to suffer at the hands of. Let's talk about the gunplay. It looks way more elegant than it ever did in Bloodborne. In Bloodborne, it felt like a very transactional, I am using my gun in an attempt to open up a parry opportunity with an enemy, whereas in the Duskbloods, it actually looks like a viable means of engaging with an enemy from a safe distance, a thing you could not do really in Bloodborne. We also saw a shot of our Carrier of Blood or an NPC getting attacked by a giant werewolf-like creature, which was very evocative of a transformed Father Gascoigne from Bloodborne, the Demon of Hatred from Sekiro, or Blythe from Elden Ring.
Maybe it's just a coincidence, but I think it's worth investigating.
But let's talk about the gameplay. What I'm hoping is that the Duskbloods is Bloodborne by way of Elden Ring in terms of gameplay feel and moment-to-moment navigation and combat. The opening leap we saw from the Carrier of Blood reminds me of the giant leap down from a tower that we see in the Elden Ring Nightreign trailer. So here's hoping our likely vampiric main character has the ability to withstand fall damage, which to me says that the player life is less precious than the single-player focused FromSoft games. Like Nightreign, I suspect we're going to be dropping into a new Yarnham-esque world pretty often. We've already seen Elden Ring revolutionize FromSoft's open hub design by allowing the player to run into a brick wall difficulty-wise, and after enough headbutts, realize they're not strong enough and head off into another direction to meaningfully explore more of the map while getting stronger, only to return to the previous brick wall and finally break through, aka defeat the tough boss. But how will the Duskbloods revolutionize and evolve the aggressive playstyle that Bloodborne actively encourages? Ever since the dawn of Demon Souls, Dark Souls, and Bloodborne, and so on, I've always thought that the FromSoft games have outgrown the old standby of consumable health replenishing items. But in the trailer, we see the playable character sucking the blood of an unsuspecting enemy. And since this is a PvPvE game, let me throw an example out for you. You are going one-on-one with another real-life human being in the world of the Duskbloods. They get you down to a sliver of your health. Do you engage with the enemy in the hopes of defeating them and moving on to the next area in the game, or do you run away and try and attack a weaker NPC in order to weaken them enough so that you can then suck their blood and hopefully heal? What I'm getting at is, what if instead of health replenishing items, you can suck the blood of an enemy in order to gain a quick heal? And why that's compelling is Bloodborne rewards you for playing aggressively. If you take a little bit of damage from an enemy, you have a limited window to attack the enemy and gain the chance to get some health back. I think this is similar to that mechanic in Bloodborne in that it allows the player to engage in a risk versus reward assessment. Do I engage with an enemy directly in the hopes of trying to finish him off before I die, or do I run away and lick my wounds by attacking a weaker enemy and trying to get a quick heal?
The moon tears will flow for one, and one alone.
Long story short, we are getting two multiplayer-focused FromSoftware games back-to-back with Elden Ring Nightreign dropping later this year and the Duskbloods in 2026. Elden Ring Nightreign's network test left me intrigued and hungry for more. And for the first time in a minute, that blend of FromSoft's intimate combat combined with a supporting squad of Nightfarers to tackle insurmountable odds allowed for a sense of community I haven't experienced in a long time. And with the Duskbloods potentially flipping that squad-based formula, allows for some delightful, in-the-moment risk versus reward gameplay that makes Bloodborne so special. Is multiplayer-focused FromSoft the future? Possibly. But regardless, in the hands of Miyazaki and the rest of the talented team at FromSoftware, I think we'll be okay. More will be revealed about the Duskbloods on April 4th in a Creator's Voice article with the man, the myth, and legend himself, Hidetaka Miyazaki. Make sure you check out all of IGN's Nintendo Switch 2 coverage as we learn more about Nintendo's next console. And for more on all things gaming, stay tuned to IGN.